Hello, my name is Neil Morgan. I'm your York County Administrator. Joining me today are our two Deputy County Administrators, Vivian McGettigan and Mark Carter. I'd like to go to talk a little bit about where we're at in the budget process, sort of what we know and what we don't know about the upcoming budget. And you heard earlier Vivian talking about the major expenditures and the major revenues on our budget. And of course, from year to year, those broad categories are not going to change. They adjust slightly. What do we know that's going to change? Well, by the time you watch this show, if you're a homeowner, you will probably have received your new assessment. The county has a 2-year assessment cycle, and so certainly there will be a small amount of revenue growth in our budget because of assessments. The preliminary information, though, is it's pretty modest. The assessor described our real estate situation as stable, so it's not going to be some big windfall. So we'll know we'll have a little bit of local revenue from real estate, from personal property, and from consumer taxes like meals and sales, but that's sort of on the 1%, 1.5% scale. One of the things we don't know much about is what the state is going to do. If the state does well by the schools this year, as has been rumored, that could give us some significant relief because the schools might be able to take care of some of their challenges without looking to the county, at least in a large way, to help out, as has been in the case in recent years. There's some other unknowns out there. Either one of y'all care to comment about, so this is being taped right at the beginning of winter, probably in the February time frame these things start coming into focus. Other things we know and don't know at this point.
Well, I think you pretty much hit on what we know and don't know at this point. So if you'd like, I could talk a little bit about the process we use for revenue projecting and the team concept we have in place.
Sure.
We basically have, we look at our revenues independent of the expenditures, and we have a revenue team which includes the Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer, finance staff. I'm on that one as well. We look at our 10-year trends because they do tell us what has happened. So many of our revenue sources have not restored back to their 2008 level. So for example, while we see positive sales tax numbers coming in now, that is an area we'll watch very closely because with internet sales, there's no way for the state ever from a practical standpoint to get those revenues to us. And 1% of our sales tax comes back to the county.
So for example, if you go online and buy something of some Vermont catalog, chances are the county isn't going to get that
we will not
sales tax revenue, whereas if you went to a store in the county, we would.
Yes. So that's just an area that we will continue to watch. We are seeing some positive trends as we looked at the close of 15. Some of the areas where we had positive trends were our personal property tax. That's an area hit by the recession. Often when you start the recession, people will hold off on buying cars. They may actually have a third vehicle and decide to get rid of those vehicles. So we did over the last couple of years start to see those trend upwards, so there's more confidence, and that goes to consumer confidence.
Sure.
Because when you feel secure that you have income to pay, then you're more likely to buy discretionary items at that point.
And just to be a little bit cautionary on that point, I'm reminded that York County, is part of the Hampton Roads region, and how we're doing in York County cannot be separated from how Williamsburg and Norfolk and Newport News and Virginia Beach are doing. So unfortunately, Hampton Roads, compared to lots of other parts of the country, has been kind of just very slowly growing, so that kind of holds down our estimates on the revenue side. But I think your summary, Vivian, is there'll be some modest expectation for revenue growth, but nothing to write home about. And on the expenditure side,
that's true.
It's all the usual issues. Mark, you want to comment any about some of the issues that you would typically you were worried about last year and I'm worried about this year?
Well, we mentioned earlier that York County is very proud of the services that its staff renders to citizens. And so one of the things that's been high on the Board of Supervisors list is compensation for county employees, keeping the compensation package competitive in the region. And so that we looked very hard at that last year, trying to find a way to provide some modest increase in compensation. I would imagine that's going to be an issue that needs to be at least considered this year as well.
Yep.
We've talked about the CIP needs, the facility needs, and those types of things, which certainly are looming out there. Those are the two things that come to my mind most immediately.
Well, and if I had answered my own question, that's probably the two I would have picked. On the capital improvement plan side, since the recession, York County, like a lot of other local governments, has kind of moved projects, what we say, move it to the right, so we didn't have to pay for it. But you do that over a number of years, and the need accumulates. And so we really got to sort of face that issue squarely and see, can we get the capital budget on a sustainable level, and then what will that mean on the expenditure side of the operating budget. So certainly maintaining our excellent workforce and right-sizing the capital budget, I think, are the big items going forward. And we'll keep our fingers crossed the state comes through for the schools, because if we got a little pressure taken off of us there, that would be great. I think maybe it's time to sort of wrap this with a little summary of how interested citizens can follow what's going to happen with the operating budget process. Vivian, I'll give you a chance to sort of hit the highlights. Between now and May, what should folks be watching for?
Well, on January 19th, that is the opportunity for citizens to come and speak to the board in the public forum. And then in February, the Board of Supervisors will have a joint meeting with the school board, at which point they will share issues as both the Board of Supervisors and the school board work on developing the budgets. From March 1st through the end of April, there are 7 work sessions basically scheduled with the board on various topics that have not been identified yet. The board will identify what some of those topics are. We'll make some recommendations to them as well.
And probably some of those things we were just talking about, the relationship between the capital budget, compensation, what's going on with schools.
And of course, most excitingly, on March 15th, our County Administrator Neil Morgan will be presenting his proposed budget. And April 21st is another important date for the citizens, because that's the opportunity for public comment on the tax rate as well as on the budget. And the board will consider all of the various issues that have been presented from the proposed budget through the work sessions, through the public comment, to then on May 3rd, that is the date that is scheduled for the board to approve the tax rates as well as the upcoming budget.
Okay. So throughout that process, there'll be opportunities for citizens to monitor what is going on. They'll have at least a couple of public hearing opportunities to advocate or make suggestions. You did mention that critical date of when I have to recommend an operating budget. And during all that process, we'll also have to finalize our recommendations for the capital budget. It is my intention that for the viewing public, we will have another television show on the budget. Right now, my thinking is about the time I recommend the budget to the board, we'll share the highlights with the viewing audience. And of course, all of this information will also be made available on our website in as timely a manner as possible. So it's about time for a wrap. I want to give everybody a chance to make any final comments about what we see in front of us during the always challenging budget process. Vivian?
I just wanted to say the staff are hard at work pulling together information to advise Neil on the budget, and January will be an exciting month for us as we look at finalizing revenue forecasting, and also the departments will be meeting to discuss their budgets with us as well.
Thank you. Mark?
I think all I could say is ditto to what you said, always challenging.
How about good luck?
Good luck, yes. Better you than I.
Okay. Yeah, and we didn't dwell on it, but there's a lot of inside baseball, of course, going on. We talked about the external process, but during January and February, I'll be receiving all this information from regional groups and all of the operating entities, and we'll be looking for the right balance to come up with a recommended budget that the Board of Supervisors and the citizens can get behind. So we'll do our best, and I want to thank you all for joining me in this endeavor of discussing the operating environment for York County in 2016-2017. Well, I think we've covered this topic with some thoroughness. Hopefully you found this summary of our operating budget environment for 2016-2017 to be informative. On the screen as this show ends is the information about how to contact the county, the staff, as well as the Board of Supervisors. We encourage you to monitor the process as we proceed to conclude a successful budget process in the spring of 2016. Thanks for your interest, and have a good day.